Hey everyone, Liam here. When J.D. Vance walked onto the set of one of the most watched talk shows in America, he knew what he was walking into. The stage lights were hot, the cameras were rolling, and the host, infamous for ambushing conservative guests, was ready to strike. What she didn't know was that this time, her carefully crafted plan would fall apart. Not only would she fail to embarrass him, she would end up exposing herself and everything wrong with the modern media. And it all began with a smile. It was prime time. Millions of Americans were watching. The host, dressed in a sleek designer outfit, flipped through her cards as the final seconds of the commercial break ticked down. She'd built her career on gotcha moments, interrupting, cornering, and breaking down her guests until they gave her the viral headline she was hunting for. But tonight, she had her eyes set on someone different. J.D. Vance, author, veteran, lawyer, and now United States Senator from Ohio. He'd risen from poverty in Appalachia to Ivy League success and national politics. But what the media often ignored was his message: faith, family, and perseverance. They didn't want to hear about the steel mill towns or broken homes unless they could twist them into a narrative. And the host believed she had just the questions to do it. The cameras blinked on. The stage lights brightened. "Senator Vance," she began with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Welcome. Let's talk about your journey, from hillbilly elegy to the U.S. Senate. Would you say you've simply gotten lucky?" J.D. smiled back, calm, controlled. "You know," he said, "I've noticed something. People who use the word lucky often do so when they don't want to talk about hard work, about sacrifice, about grace and grit. Was I lucky? Sure, but that's not the whole story." She shifted in her seat. "But isn't it true that your rise was helped by privilege? That your story, while inspirational, isn't exactly typical?" J.D. leaned slightly forward, his voice soft but firm. "You know what's not typical? Having your mom addicted to opioids when you're 12? Living with your grandparents because your home is broken? Watching your friends die young? And still believing this country gives you a chance?" The audience murmured. The host blinked, just once. "But I didn't come here to talk about me," he added. "I came to talk about the values we've lost and how we get them back." She smirked. "Speaking of values, let's talk about your stance on family. Some say your views are outdated, traditional, even judgmental." "My views," J.D. replied, "are based on what works. Kids need moms and dads. Families need structure. Communities need responsibility. That's not outdated. That's foundational." She pounced. "But your critics say that you romanticize the past, that you want to impose your personal morality on the country." He smiled again, almost sadly. "Number, I don't want to impose anything. I want to defend the people who don't get invited to cocktail parties in D.C., the ones working double shifts, the ones praying their kids make it through high school, the ones the media forgets about." The host wasn't done. She changed tactics. "Let's talk about your wife," she said suddenly, her tone light but edged. "She's from a very different background, right? Indian American, Yale Law, successful in her own right." J.D.'s eyes lit up, not with anger, but with pride. "Yes, she's brilliant, strong, fierce, my partner in everything. And yes, our backgrounds are different, but our values are the same. Some would say," she said slowly, "that she succeeded because of you, that her platform grew after your rise. Any thoughts on that?" He raised an eyebrow. "Are you suggesting my wife's success is a product of my career? Because I'd be careful. She's probably smarter than me." more disciplined too. And if you asked her, she'd say she didn't succeed because of me. She succeeded in spite of me. The audience laughed lightly. The host didn't. She leaned in. But doesn't your position, your power, affect how people see her? Doesn't being a senator's wife come with certain doors? J.D. Vance didn't blink. You know, I get this question a lot, though usually not so directly. And here's the truth. Marriage isn't about doors. It's about the hallway you walk down together when all the doors are closed. And Usha, my wife, has walked every step of that hallway with me. Through law school, through debt, through having a baby in the middle of a campaign. The studio was silent. She didn't marry power. She married a guy who used to clean parking lots and deliver furniture. And I thank God every day that she did. The host's tone sharpened. So, let me ask plainly, do you think you married up? He grinned. Absolutely. And if she were here, she'd agree. The audience laughed again, but the host wasn't smiling. But let's be honest, she continued, eyes narrowing. You present this image of the perfect family. Strong values, clear roles. Do you really think that reflects modern America? No, J.D. answered. It reflects what America can be, what it used to be, not perfect, but stable, predictable, safe for kids. It reflects what we should fight for. That's when she made her mistake. Well, Senator, she said, her voice dripping with mock sweetness, if things ever change, if your wife decides she doesn't want to live in her husband's shadow, would you consider trading up? The gasp in the studio was audible. J.D. sat very still. His jaw tightened. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, slowly, he leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper. Let me explain something to you, he said. My marriage isn't a stock portfolio. My wife isn't an investment I trade when something shinier comes along. She's the mother of my children. She's the woman who stayed up late to edit my first book. She's the one who held my hand through the hardest moments of my life. His voice grew stronger. You don't trade up from that. You thank God for it. You protect it. You build on it. And when someone tries to diminish it with a question like that, well, you remind them what real love looks like. The studio erupted in spontaneous applause. The host flushed, clearly rattled. She stammered, I didn't mean... But you did, J.D. cut in, his tone calm but razor-sharp. You meant exactly what you said. That success should come with replacements. That relationships are disposable. That loyalty is negotiable. He turned slightly, looking directly into the camera. There are millions of Americans watching right now. Moms, dads, grandparents, people who've stood by their partners through cancer, through layoffs, through grief. And you sit here suggesting that someone like me should trade up? He paused, then delivered the blow. Well, maybe that's the difference between your world and mine. In your world, everything is for sale. In mine, some things are sacred. The audience was on their feet. The host-producer was signaling for commercial, but J.D. wasn't done. Real relationships, he continued, aren't about convenience. They're about commitment. They're about choosing the same person again and again, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The host sat frozen, her smile completely gone. And if you can't understand that, J.D. said, his voice quiet now, maybe it's not me who's out of touch with America. Maybe it's you. The room exploded in applause. That night, the clip went viral. Millions watched as J.D. Vance calmly dismantled a trap that had been weeks in the making. But what stuck with people wasn't just his defense of his wife. It was the way he did it. With grace, with strength, with conviction. And maybe, just maybe, it reminded America of the kind of men we used to admire, the kind of love we used to honor, and the kind of values we're still fighting to protect. This was Liam. Leave a comment below and let me know where you're watching from it. Hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next story.